Okay, everybody, I want to talk about the digital era, and the modern digital era that I want to speak about is, of course, going to be the modern one. But what I want to talk about is the psychology of the digital era and how it may be affecting things. Now, the thing about this digital era is that a lot of people believe that it is, in some way, the digital era is primarily a gaming era or an era of technology that is fun. And while yes, that's true, I think the digital era should be more categorized as an entertainment era and less of a social or gaming era that is it's known for. And what I want to talk about is how that era is going to influence things for the future. So, based on my experiences, um, there are many things that this digital era is going to influence, right? Let's move on to games. I don't think that in this modern digital era that psychologically games are going to do much. It's very similar to when you used to play swords or sticks when you were a child, but I do think it's going to result in a psychology where you can sort of where procrastinating is becoming more normal, and that is easily a thing that's not really difficult of a guess. People are going to start procrastinating more, and people are going to start becoming this way, right? And also, it might lead to violent actions, not due to the fact that playing a game is similar to killing somebody, but more so that you think of it as an easier outlet, and it's much more easier to do, or that it's much more easier to have skill in violence than it is. But my main focus isn't on gaming, because I don't think gaming is the hugest thing that could possibly happen. I think the hugest thing that could possibly happen is, first and foremost, media, right? And I think the way media influences our portrayal of things is how things go. I think that the idea of firing people because of social medias and what they've stated on there, and cancel culture, I think that is a double-edged sword that is being faced against us. Not because on one hand, you of course have the idea that many people are losing jobs in an economy that is difficult to revive a job from. So many people could lose jobs. I mean, certain things you shouldn't allow, like anti-racial protests that are clearly not jokes, right? But then the thing is, the other thing that the psychology is doing is it is giving people the false sense of power. So you see, cancel culture has tried to go for somebody like Putin in recent history. So you can know which time this comes out. It's during the Ukraine invasion. But people don't understand that doesn't carry as much weight as dictatorial rules. So when people think that their cell phone holds so much power, the thing is, it holds so much power when there is a higher power above that person, and in some cases can get you in a lot of power trouble if you try to gun for someone higher than you. And it is a great thing to stand up against the government, but it's also a very difficult thing. Even your own boss, you could try to cancel a boss, but in the end of the day, it's gonna get you in more trouble. And I think it's that disillusion. It is not. It is giving the illusion that you are the boss, when in actuality, it's strengthening the dynamic and difference between boss and worker. And people have to understand that, because canceling a boss is going to lead you into out of a job, and you getting cancelled is going to lead to you getting out of a job. So it's just making a split between higher powers and people having more control and influence, and being under pressure to use that control and influence in radical fashions. Another psychological effect of the things, which is definitely the internet, is definitely the idea of copying media. When something's on TV, you always, at least there's some sort of weight into it, right? Because of what people on cell phones are doing, it adds that effect that TV has, where you try to imitate that life. You try to become a gangster, you try to do those things, right? Because you see it on TV. What's even worse is that the internet is now, there's two types, there's a double-edged sword here as well. It's bots and people who aren't bots. So bots have these unrealistic beauty standards, right? Bots have these specialized advertisements and try to fit in as normal, but you will oftentimes, when you see these bots, you are now gonna try to imitate it. You're gonna try to become this perfect person who does whatever a bot does, which is so advanced. So you're gonna try to post these pictures, take these drugs, and do this and do other things involving that bots would do, because that's what the general culture of the place is. And also the internet is giving people another outlet in which it's very difficult to, well, it's doing the same double-edged sword. The other side of the sword, which is humans, is the idea that people are spreading themselves, right? They are showing who they are in a environment that feels more trustworthy, and the internet feels like a much more trustworthy source than anything, because it feels like it lacks consequences. But the thing is, when you show that lack of consequence to somebody else, they don't see the consequences of that action that current person will experience, and only gets that when they start imitating those actions. So now people are going to start imitating people who smoke, people who send hot pics, people who talk about dating stories, and people who don't understand privacy, and they're going to try to follow that trend just because they've seen someone else do it. And that is another thing. And another psychology is the idea that confrontate, like certain things that you wouldn't do, the internet has tried to make it. We are now living in an era in which humans aren't doing what they wouldn't do on the internet. They're starting to actually try and do that stuff. People are confronting people in real life about actual situations without context. So you might not get that. And that is a huge problem. You may confront somebody without knowing their fix. You will want more radical results. You will think that you are aware of something because you've been taught this way, but you don't understand. You lack sympathy for other people, and that is what it's doing. In some cases, that's good because it allows you to stop incorrect behavior that some people try to confirm is great and is just because we're too soft, but it's actually that kind of behavior. And that is what I want to say is my opinions on this whole issue of what the psychology can do. It's going to be a thing of where people imitate each other on the internet. People feel secure in an environment which isn't that secure. And that leads me to my, and yeah, that's my overall